I thought grief had limits. I was wrong. When my son died, I lost my breath. But when I discovered the secret buried inside his home, I lost my soul. The night the thunder rolled across the valley, I stood on the front porch of the old 2-story house that once held my son's laughter. The rain soaked through my coat, but I didn't move. I had come to pack his belongings, to close a chapter no mother should ever have to end. The air smelled of rain and grief, and I swear I could still hear him calling Mom from somewhere deep inside those walls. My son's name was Michael Grant. He was 35, a nurse at the city hospital, a man of compassion, strength, and quiet humor. He was my only child, my miracle after years of praying. His wife, Amber, had been the golden girl, beautiful, sophisticated, a pediatrician with the kind of smile that disarmed everyone in a room. Together, they were perfect, or so I thought. When Michael died in a tragic accident, at least that's what the police report said, Amber vanished for weeks. No calls, no visits, just silence. She said she needed space, and I respected that. But something in my gut whispered that space was not what she needed. It was 2 months later when I finally walked into their home again. The house was too clean, unnaturally so. The framed photos were still on the shelves, the scent of Amber's perfume faint but lingering, and yet the energy felt wrong. It wasn't grief that filled this place. It was fear. I started boxing Michael's clothes. His shirt still smelled like his cologne. His stethoscope hung on the back of his chair. And then, tucked under his folded scrubs, I found it. A small old quilt, worn, faded, with a patch stitched unevenly near the corner. The moment I touched it, a chill ran through me. Under that patch, something hard pressed against my palm. I tore it open. Inside was a phone, Michael's second phone, one I never knew existed. I charged it, trembling as the screen lit up. Dozens of unsent messages, photos, a hidden folder labeled A. My heart stopped when I opened it. There she was, Amber. But not in the hospital, not with my son. She was in the arms of another man. And worse, there were messages. Ones that made my blood run cold. It's almost done. The insurance will clear soon. Make it look like an accident. She can't know. I dropped the phone as if it burned me. My son's death wasn't an accident. Someone had planned it, someone he trusted. And the woman I called my daughter-in-law might have been the one who betrayed him. I went to the police, shaking, desperate for answers. But they said the evidence was inconclusive. They took the phone, promised to look into it. Weeks passed. Nothing. No arrests. No justice. Only silence. One evening, as I was preparing to leave the house again, the doorbell rang. Standing there was a woman I had never seen before, holding a small child by the hand. Her eyes were tired, red-rimmed, and full of something I couldn't read. "You don't know me," she said softly. "My name is Lydia Torres, and I think your son died because of me." That sentence tore through me like lightning. She stepped inside, shivering from the cold. The child clung to her leg. "This is Ella," she said. "She's 5. She's Michael's daughter." My knees gave out. I had never seen the child before, never heard of her existence. My son had a daughter? How? When? And what did Amber know? Lydia told me everything in pieces, her voice trembling. She had met Michael years before he married Amber. They had been in love, young and foolish. But when she became pregnant, Michael didn't even know. Her family had forced her to disappear, sending her away to another state. She tried to find him later, but by then he was married. "I didn't want to ruin his life," she said. But someone found me. Someone knew about Ella. And after Michael's death, I started getting threats, messages, from a woman named Amber. The room seemed to spin. Amber knew. She had known about Lydia and Ella all along. I sat frozen as Lydia handed me a small envelope. Inside was a birth certificate, and my son's name was right there. Printed clearly, Father, Michael Grant. Something deep inside me broke. Lydia continued. Amber wanted to take Ella. She said the money from Michael's insurance should go to her. and that I needed to disappear. I thought she was bluffing until my apartment was broken into, and I found this. She pulled out a photo. It was Amber again, this time with a man I recognized. Dr. Hugh Miller, Michael's best friend. They were standing beside a car, the same car Michael died in, weeks before the accident. The truth was finally showing its teeth. Outside, thunder cracked again. I looked at Lydia, at the little girl clutching her hand, and I knew that whatever this was, it wasn't over, I whispered. We'll find the truth, Lydia. I swear to you, she nodded, tears streaming down her face. That night, as I sat alone with the quilt on my lap, I realized something terrifying. That old patch I had torn open? It wasn't the only one. There were others, each one stitched over with trembling hands. And deep in my heart, I knew. More secrets were waiting, and they were all buried right here, inside the house that used to be my son's home. The next morning, sunlight crept through the curtains of Michael's house, turning the dust in the air into floating gold. Lydia was asleep on the couch, little Ella nestled against her chest, clutching a stuffed bunny. I stood in the kitchen, holding a cup of cold coffee, watching the light crawl across the wooden floorboards. It was strange how quiet a house could feel after death, as if the walls themselves were afraid to breathe. I kept hearing Michael's laughter in my head, the way he used to whistle while he cooked, the way he always called me every Sunday no matter how busy he was. Now all that remained were questions that cut like glass. If Amber truly had something to do with his death, how deep did it go? And why did no one see it? I opened the box where I had placed the quilt the night before. My hands trembled as I ran my fingers over the uneven stitches. Each patch was a mystery, a door locked with grief. Carefully, I began to unpick the next one. A small folded paper fell out. It was a receipt from a jewelry store dated 2 days before Michael's accident. The item purchased an engagement ring, not for Amber. The name on the receipt read Lydia Torres. My heart stopped. Michael had been planning to leave Amber. I sat back, clutching the paper to my chest as a storm began to build inside me. He had finally chosen love, truth, and family over the perfect image everyone saw, and it had cost him his life. That afternoon, I called Detective Harrison, the man assigned to Michael's case. His voice was tired, almost disinterested. Mrs. Grant, I told you before the case was ruled an accident. There's no new evidence to suggest otherwise. I told him about the receipt, about Lydia, about the phone hidden in the quilt. His tone changed, slightly more alert now. Where's the phone? He asked. With the police, I said sharply. You took it. A pause. We didn't receive any secondary device, ma'am. The room went cold. After I hung up, my pulse was pounding in my ears. If the phone never reached evidence, someone inside the department might have taken it or destroyed it. And that meant the web was larger than I thought. Lydia woke later, her voice groggy but frightened. We have to go, she said suddenly. Amber's people, they know where I am. I asked her who they were, but she shook her head. She has friends everywhere. In the hospital, in the police. I don't know who to trust anymore. I believed her. Amber wasn't just a grieving widow. She was a woman capable of manipulation, control, and charm. She could make anyone believe her version of the story. That evening, as we were packing a small bag for Ella, I heard a knock at the door. A soft, rhythmic tapping, 3 times, then silence. My chest tightened. Lydia froze. That's her knock, she whispered. I motioned for her to take Ella upstairs. I opened the door slowly, and there stood Dr. Hugh Miller, rain dripping from his hair, a look of unease etched across his face. Mrs. Grant, he said quietly, we need to talk. I let him in, but every nerve in my body screamed caution. His eyes darted around the room as if afraid of being seen. I didn't mean for any of this to happen, he began. Amber, she's not who you think she is. I know exactly who she is, I said coldly. She killed my son. He looked at me, startled but not surprised. I tried to stop her, he said. But she had everything planned. Michael found out about the insurance policy. He wanted to cancel it, to start over with Lydia. She couldn't let that happen. She said if he left her, she'd ruin him. Then one night she asked me to meet her at the lake house. My heart thudded painfully. The night he died? He nodded. She said it would look like an accident. The brakes, the storm, everything. His voice broke. But I didn't think she'd actually go through with it. I wanted to scream, to hit him, to make him feel even a fraction of my pain. Instead, I forced my voice to stay calm. Why come here now? Because she's going to kill Lydia next, he whispered. And maybe you too. Outside, thunder cracked again, as if echoing the dread in his words. Before I could respond, Lydia appeared on the staircase, holding Ella close. Hugh's eyes softened when he saw the child. She looks just like him, he murmured. Michael loved her more than life itself. He told me he was going to take both of you away that weekend. Lydia's lips trembled. You were part of it, she said bitterly. You helped her, Hugh's expression twisted with guilt. I was weak. I thought I loved Amber, but now I see she used me, just like she used everyone. I turned away, clutching the back of the chair to keep myself upright. We need proof, I said. Something undeniable. Hugh hesitated, then reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small flash drive. Michael gave this to me the week before he died, he said. He told me to keep it safe in case anything ever happened to him. I didn't open it until last night. He placed it in my hand. Inside are voice recordings, messages, files, enough to destroy her if you're brave enough to use them. For a long moment, the only sound was the rain hitting the windows. Then I said quietly, You need to go. If she finds you here, she'll kill us all. He nodded, looking broken. Be careful, Mrs. Grant. She's capable of anything. After he left, Lydia and I locked every door and window. We didn't sleep. Around midnight, I plugged the flash drive into my laptop. Folders appeared. Videos, audio files, scanned documents. One file name made my stomach twist. Confession Amber.mp3. When I pressed play, her voice filled the room. Calm, cold. If he had just listened, none of this would have happened. I warned him. I told him not to betray me. But he thought he could walk away. With her and that child. No one walks away from me. Lydia's hand flew to her mouth. I felt tears blur my vision. Every word was proof. Every syllable was a knife. I sat back, shaking, the truth pressing down like a physical weight. My son hadn't just died. He had been hunted. As dawn broke, I made a silent promise. I would not rest until Amber paid for what she had done. Outside, the rain stopped, but the sky remained gray, heavy with secrets still waiting to be unearthed. And I knew this was only the beginning of a battle that would test everything I had left inside me. The morning sun rose behind the thick curtains of the farmhouse, painting the walls in soft gold. Nora stood in the kitchen, her hands trembling slightly as she poured milk into a small glass. The scent of pancakes filled the air, but her heart wasn't in it. She kept glancing toward the living room, where little Emma was sitting on the floor surrounded by old photo albums. The child had found them in a dusty drawer that hadn't been opened for years. Emma's soft curls framed her face as she flipped through the pictures with innocent curiosity. "Grandma," she asked in her small, angelic voice, "who are these people? Why do they look like me?" Nora froze, the glass in her hand almost slipping. Her throat tightened as memories she had buried deep began to stir like ghosts. She slowly walked toward the girl and knelt beside her. "Those are people who loved you very much," she said quietly. "But they're with Jesus now." Emma tilted her head. "Like Mommy?" Nora's breath caught. She didn't want to lie, but she couldn't tell the full truth yet. Not when the little girl was only 6 years old. "Yes," she whispered. "Like your mommy." Later that day, Nora sat alone on the porch swing, watching the golden leaves drift through the air. She held one of the photographs Emma had found, a picture of her son Daniel and his wife Lydia, smiling beside a newborn baby. Her hands trembled as tears filled her eyes. The ache in her heart was endless, a wound that time refused to close. She could still hear Lydia's laughter, soft and musical. She could still remember the way Daniel had looked at his daughter the day she was born, with pride, with tenderness, with dreams that would never come true. But the world had turned dark too soon. When Lydia disappeared 6 years ago, the police said it was an accident, a fall from the cliff during a storm. Daniel never believed it, and his obsession with finding the truth destroyed him. He spent every waking hour searching for clues, and when he finally uncovered the horror behind Lydia's death, it was too late. The woman who pretended to be Lydia's friend, Rebecca, had stolen everything. She had taken Lydia's place, taken Daniel's life, and almost taken Emma's future. Nora closed her eyes as the memories replayed like a nightmare she could never escape. Rebecca had been charming at first, showing up with casseroles and smiles, pretending to help after Lydia's disappearance. But behind that perfect mask was a predator, a woman who lived on deception. Daniel had trusted her for too long, believing she wanted to help raise Emma, and by the time he realized the truth, she had already trapped him. Nora still remembered the day the truth came out, the police sirens, the reporters, the endless questions. Rebecca's lies had finally unraveled, exposing years of manipulation, forgery, and cold-blooded murder. Nora had stood in the courtroom as Rebecca received 6 life sentences without parole. She had wanted to feel relief, but all she felt was emptiness. Because no matter how just the verdict, it couldn't bring back the people she lost. Emma came running outside then, holding her stuffed rabbit close. "Grandma," she said, climbing onto Nora's lap, "I had a dream last night. Mommy was singing." She said, "Don't be afraid, my darling." Nora felt her heart break all over again. She stroked the child's hair gently, whispering, "Maybe that was her way of saying she's watching over you." Emma looked up, her eyes wide and innocent. "Do you think she's proud of me?" Nora smiled through tears. "Oh, sweetheart, she's more than proud. She's in heaven smiling at you every day." For a moment, the world felt peaceful again. The autumn wind rustled the trees, carrying whispers of a love that refused to die. But deep inside, Nora knew this peace was fragile. Because lately, strange things had started happening around the farmhouse. Phone calls with no one on the other end, shadows that moved in the hallway at night, and notes left on the porch written in handwriting that looked hauntingly familiar. One evening, as the sun sank behind the hills, Nora found a small envelope on the doorstep. Her name was written on it in delicate looping letters. Her heart pounded as she tore it open. Inside was a short message. "The past isn't over, Nora. Some truths never stay buried." There was no signature, no return address, just those chilling words that made her blood run cold. She looked around the quiet yard, scanning the fading light for any sign of movement. The mailbox creaked softly in the breeze. The old oak tree swayed. Nothing seemed out of place, but Nora's instincts screamed that someone was watching. She went back inside and locked every door, every window, before sitting down with trembling hands. Who could have sent it? Rebecca was still in prison, wasn't she? The next morning, Nora called the sheriff, who assured her that Rebecca remained behind bars. "Probably some prank," he said. But his tone lacked conviction, and that only made her more uneasy. She decided not to tell Emma about the letter. The child had finally started smiling again, sleeping without nightmares. Nora wouldn't steal that fragile peace away. Days passed and the unease grew. Footsteps on the gravel driveway late at night. The feeling of eyes watching from the woods. Once, she even found Emma's favorite stuffed rabbit outside in the rain, though she swore she'd left it by the bed. Nora couldn't shake the dread that something, or someone, from the past was creeping back into their lives. Then one night, as thunder rolled across the sky, Nora woke to the sound of the front door creaking open. She grabbed the flashlight from the nightstand and crept down the hallway, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. "Hello?" she whispered. No answer. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows. She aimed the flashlight toward the door and froze. There, lying on the floor, was another envelope. She picked it up with shaking hands. Inside was a single photograph of Emma taken from outside the window. On the back were words written in the same elegant handwriting. She looks just like her mother. Nora dropped the photo, her heart racing. The farmhouse, once a refuge, suddenly felt like a trap. Somewhere in the darkness, an old evil was stirring again. She looked toward Emma's room, where the little girl slept peacefully, unaware of the danger lurking beyond the walls. Nora made a silent promise then, whispering into the storm, "You will not touch her." Not again. Not ever. She didn't know who the threat was, or what kind of darkness was rising, but she knew one thing for certain. The story wasn't over. The ghosts of their past were coming back, and this time, they were not coming quietly. The night that followed was heavy with silence, the kind that presses down on a house until even the wind seems afraid to breathe. Nora barely slept. She sat on the edge of her bed with the flashlight clutched in one hand and the photograph in the other, the one that showed her granddaughter through the window. Every creak of the old wooden floors made her heart lurch. Every gust of wind brushing the curtains felt like a whisper from something unseen. By dawn, her nerves were frayed. She rose from bed, brewed a pot of strong coffee, and stared out the kitchen window as gray clouds rolled over the valley. The farmhouse that once held laughter and sunlight now felt like a stranger, watching her instead of sheltering her. When Emma came down for breakfast, she noticed immediately that something was wrong. "Grandma, are you sad again?" she asked softly, her voice still thick with sleep. Nora forced a smile, brushing a strand of hair from the girl's forehead. "No, sweetheart. Just tired." She handed her a plate of pancakes shaped like hearts, hoping to hide the trembling in her hands. But as Emma ate, Nora's eyes drifted toward the front porch, where raindrops tapped softly against the wooden steps. The memory of that envelope burned in her mind. The handwriting, so delicate and familiar, haunted her. She had seen it before, years ago in Lydia's letters to Daniel. Could it be possible? After sending Emma to school, Nora took the photograph and letters to Sheriff Dawson. The man was kind but worn down, with deep lines etched into his face from years of small-town troubles. He examined the photo carefully, frowning. "This wasn't taken from far away," he said. "Looks like someone was standing right outside your window." His voice hardened. "You did the right thing bringing this to me." Nora folded her arms tightly. "You told me Rebecca's in prison. Are you sure?" Dawson sighed. "As sure as I can be. She's at the state penitentiary. I'll call to confirm, but if she's behind this, she's got help." As Nora drove home, rain began to fall harder, slanting across the windshield like tears. The road shimmered beneath her headlights, twisting through the forest that bordered her land. She tried to shake the feeling that she was being followed, but when she glanced in the rearview mirror, a pair of headlights disappeared around a bend. Maybe it was just her nerves. Maybe. When she reached the farmhouse, something strange caught her eye, a small figure standing near the old oak tree at the edge of the yard. Her breath hitched. She stopped the car, squinting through the rain, but the figure vanished before she could see clearly. She rushed inside, locking the door behind her. For a long time she stood in the hallway listening. Only the sound of rain against the windows. Only the creak of the house settling. Yet the unease wouldn't fade. That night, she tucked Emma into bed and stayed by her side until the little girl's breathing grew steady. "Grandma?" Emma murmured, half asleep. "I dreamed of Mommy again. She said the rain is washing away secrets." Nora felt a chill run down her spine. "That's a beautiful dream, darling. Go back to sleep." She kissed her forehead and walked quietly into the hallway, her mind spinning. Washing away secrets. What could that mean? Unable to rest, Nora returned to the old chest where she had kept Lydia's belongings. Inside were photographs, letters, and a small journal wrapped in a faded silk ribbon. She had never opened it before, thinking it too painful. But now something told her she needed to. She untied the ribbon and turned to the first page. Lydia's handwriting danced across the paper, elegant and warm. "For Emma, if she ever needs to know the truth." Nora's breath caught. She began to read, the words pulling her deeper into a story she thought she already knew. Lydia wrote about the months before her death, the strange calls, the feeling of being watched, the growing fear that someone close to her wanted to harm her. She mentioned a woman named Claire, a friend who appeared suddenly in her life and seemed to know too much. Claire says she understands me, Lydia wrote. But sometimes I see something dark in her eyes. Daniel doesn't trust her. He says she's not who she says she is. Nora's fingers trembled as she turned the page. Lydia's last entry ended abruptly, mid-sentence. If anything happens to me, look for the letter under... The ink stopped there, smudged by what looked like water or tears. Nora felt her pulse race. Under what? Underwear? The rain beat harder against the roof as she searched the chest again, running her hands through old papers and photos, desperate to find another clue. And then she saw it. A false bottom. Beneath it was a small sealed envelope, brittle with age. Her name was written across the front in Lydia's familiar script. She tore it open with shaking hands. Inside was a single page. Mom, if you're reading this, I was right. Claire isn't real. She's someone else. She wants my life. Protect Emma. Don't trust anyone who says they're helping. Nora's heart stopped. Claire, not Rebecca. Could they have been the same person? Was Rebecca just another name, another disguise? The realization hit her like lightning. If Rebecca had stolen Lydia's identity once, could someone be doing it again now? Suddenly the phone rang, startling her so badly that she dropped the letter. She grabbed the receiver, her voice trembling. Hello. Silence. Then a faint, distorted whisper. You found it too soon. The line went dead. Nora stood frozen, the phone still pressed to her ear, her blood running cold. Someone knew she had found the letter. Someone was watching. She turned off the lights and peered through the curtains. The yard was shrouded in fog, the rain coming down in steady sheets. And then she saw it, a shadow moving near the oak tree. It was tall, thin, unmistakably human. Her heart pounded as she reached for the shotgun Daniel had kept in the closet. She loaded it with trembling hands and whispered to herself, Not again. You won't take her. You won't take anyone else. Hours passed before the storm finally eased. When dawn came, Nora stepped outside to find the ground soaked and the air heavy with mist. Near the oak tree, the wet earth showed fresh footprints leading toward the woods. She followed them for several yards before they vanished into the underbrush. Whoever had been there knew how to disappear. When she returned to the porch, something glinted near the doorstep. Another envelope. This one was smeared with mud and rainwater. Inside was a photo of Lydia, but not the Lydia she remembered. In this photo, Lydia stood beside Rebecca in front of a hospital, both smiling. Written on the back were 4 words that made Nora's knees buckle. She's not the only one. Nora clutched the photo to her chest as the morning light broke through the clouds. Her tears mixed with the rain still clinging to her face. Somewhere in those woods, someone carried the truth about what happened all those years ago. And now, the past was clawing its way back, bringing with it a new fear, a new mystery, and the terrifying possibility that Lydia's story had never truly ended. The morning sun tried to pierce through the fog, but the valley remained gray and heavy, as if the earth itself was unwilling to wake. Nora stood barefoot on the porch, her eyes locked on the photograph she had found hours earlier. The image burned in her mind, Lydia and Rebecca smiling together side by side like old friends. It didn't make sense. Lydia had never mentioned knowing a woman named Rebecca before her death, yet here they were, standing shoulder to shoulder in front of the very hospital where Lydia had worked during her last months alive. Nora's hands trembled as she traced the outlines of their faces. If Lydia had trusted Rebecca once, then betrayal had come from someone she called a friend. She went back inside, closing the door softly behind her, afraid of making noise that might wake Emma. The old floorboards creaked under her weight, a sound that now seemed to echo louder than it ever had. She took the photo and Lydia's letter to the kitchen table, spreading them out beside a cup of untouched coffee. Her mind was a storm of questions. Who sent the photo? Why now? And what did the message mean? She's not the only one? The phone rang again. Nora froze. The sound sliced through the silence like a blade. She hesitated, then picked it up, her voice trembling. Hello? A man's voice spoke softly, almost kindly. Mrs. Carson, my name is Detective Harris from the State Bureau. Sheriff Dawson asked me to follow up on your case. We believe someone connected to Rebecca Wilson might still be active. Nora's breath caught. Active? You mean alive? Harris's voice grew quieter. We're not certain, but the photo you gave Dawson has raised concerns. We're coming to you this afternoon. Please don't leave the house and keep your granddaughter close. When the line went dead, Nora's pulse hammered in her throat. She sat in silence for several minutes, her thoughts racing. Someone connected to Rebecca might still be active. That meant whoever had been watching her, whoever left the envelopes, wasn't just a stranger playing cruel games. It was someone who knew too much. Someone who might have been part of the nightmare Lydia faced years ago. At noon, the storm returned. The rain came down in heavy sheets, rattling against the windows, and the thunder rolled across the hills like a warning. Emma was playing quietly in the living room with her dolls when she looked up suddenly and said, "Grandma, someone's outside." Nora's heart seized. "Where, honey?" Emma pointed toward the big maple tree near the barn. "By the swing. I saw a lady. She was watching me." Nora moved fast. She grabbed her raincoat, opened the drawer by the door, and slipped the small revolver Daniel used to keep for coyotes into her pocket. "Stay here and lock the door," she said firmly, her voice steady even as her hands shook. Outside, the rain drenched her instantly. The swing under the maple swayed in the wind, creaking softly. She scanned the yard, her eyes darting between the trees and the barn. "Who's out there?" she called out, her voice rising above the rain. No answer, only the low moan of thunder. She moved closer, boots sinking into the mud, her breath coming fast. And then she saw it, a white scarf caught on a branch, fluttering wildly. She pulled it free, recognizing it instantly. It was Lydia's scarf, the one she was buried with. Her stomach dropped. Suddenly, a flash of movement near the barn caught her eye. She raised the gun. "Stop! Show yourself!" A figure stepped out from the shadows. A woman, tall, soaked, her face half hidden beneath a dark hood. Nora's finger tightened on the trigger. "Who are you?" The woman lifted her head slowly, revealing pale eyes that gleamed in the dim light. "You shouldn't have opened that letter," she said. Her voice was calm, almost pitying. "You've brought it all back." Nora's throat went dry. "What do you want from us?" The woman took a step forward, the rain dripping from her coat. "The truth. The truth your daughter died for." Nora blinked, her mind spinning. "You knew my daughter?" The woman gave a small, bitter smile. "Knew her? I loved her like a sister. We worked together at the hospital before it all went wrong. She didn't trust easily, but she trusted me." Nora's heart twisted. "Then why are you here? Why the threats? Why the photos?" The woman's eyes flickered with something that looked like regret. "Because someone else is still out there. Someone who doesn't want the past uncovered. I tried to warn you before, but you thought I was the enemy." Lightning split the sky, and for a moment, Nora saw the woman's face clearly. It wasn't Rebecca. The resemblance was there, the sharp cheekbones, the pale eyes. But the woman standing before her was older, broken, haunted. "Who are you?" Nora whispered. "My name is Claire," she said softly. "But that's not the name they know me by." She pulled back her hood, revealing a scar running down her temple. "Rebecca Wilson is dead. I buried her myself." Nora staggered back, her mind refusing to accept what she was hearing. That can't be true. She was convicted. "She's in prison." Claire shook her head slowly. "No, they convicted a name, not a person. The real Rebecca died years ago. Someone took her identity, just like she took your daughter's." The air seemed to collapse around them, the rain pounding harder, the thunder rolling closer. "Why come now?" Nora demanded. "Why not tell the police?" Claire's voice broke. "I tried, but no one believed me. I was part of it once. I helped her. I thought it was for good, but when she started killing, I ran. I've been hiding ever since." Nora's grip on the gun loosened. "Then help me. Help me protect Emma." Claire's expression softened, almost sorrowful. "I will, but you need to know what you're up against. The woman pretending to be Rebecca, she's still alive. And she's looking for the girl. Before Nora could respond, a sharp crack split the air. A gunshot. The sound echoed across the yard. Claire gasped, clutching her shoulder as she fell to the ground. Nora dropped to her knees beside her. No, stay with me. Claire's lips trembled. She found me, she whispered. Don't trust anyone. She's already inside. Her hand went limp, her eyes glazing over as the rain washed the blood from her skin. Nora froze. Inside? Her heart stopped. She turned toward the house. Through the window, she could see Emma standing in the living room, staring at something, or someone, behind her. Then the lights flickered and went out. Nora screamed her granddaughter's name and ran, the rain pounding behind her like 1,000 fists. The front door was ajar, swinging in the wind. She burst inside, her breath ragged, her shoes leaving muddy prints across the floor. "Emma!" she cried. But the living room was empty. Only the faint smell of perfume lingered in the air, a scent she recognized instantly. Lavender and smoke. Rebecca's scent. On the wall above the fireplace, something had been written in dripping red letters. "You found her too late." Nora fell to her knees, her hands shaking uncontrollably. The storm outside raged on, but inside the house, a deeper silence took hold, one filled with fear, loss, and the cold certainty that the nightmare had just begun again. The storm roared through the night as if the heavens themselves were mourning. The power was gone. The candles flickered wildly, throwing trembling shadows across the walls like ghosts clawing to escape. Nora's heart pounded so violently that she could hear it echo in her ears. Her granddaughter was gone. The only trace left behind was the faint scent of lavender and the chilling words scrawled across the wall. "You found her too late." She whispered Emma's name again and again, her voice cracking until it dissolved into sobs. But the house gave her nothing back, not even an echo. She stumbled toward the staircase, her flashlight trembling in her hand. The beam of light cut through the dark, landing on the hallway that led to Emma's room. The door stood open, swaying slightly as if someone had just passed through. "Please, dear God," she muttered, stepping inside. Emma's bed was empty. Her stuffed bear, Button, lay on the floor with one arm torn off. The window was open, rain pouring in, soaking the curtains. Muddy footprints led away from the bed, 2 sets, one small and one larger. Nora's chest tightened. Whoever had taken Emma had come from inside. Claire's last words echoed in her mind. She's already inside. The sound of glass breaking downstairs snapped her back to reality. She gripped the revolver tighter and moved cautiously toward the stairs. Her mind screamed at her to call the police, but her body moved on instinct. Each step creaked beneath her weight, loud in the suffocating silence. When she reached the bottom, the living room was darker than before. One of the candles had gone out, leaving a single flame flickering weakly on the mantel. And then she saw it, the photo frame lying shattered on the floor. It was the picture of Lydia holding baby Emma. The glass was cracked across Lydia's face. Suddenly, from the kitchen came a faint hum. A woman's voice. Low, soft, almost tender. Nora's breath caught in her throat. She crept closer, her finger on the trigger. The kitchen door was half open, and through the gap she saw a figure standing by the counter. Long hair, a long coat. Humming a lullaby, Emma's lullaby. "Hush, little baby, don't say a word." The woman turned slowly, and the candlelight revealed her face. It was Rebecca, or someone wearing her face. Nora froze, the gun trembling in her hand. The woman smiled, her lips painted crimson. "You shouldn't have kept her from me, Nora," she said softly. "She belongs to me now." Nora's voice broke. "Where is she? What did you do to my granddaughter?" Rebecca, or whoever she was, laughed, a chilling sound that made the room seem colder. "She's safe for now. But you've done enough damage. You and Lydia both. You took what was mine and I took it back." Nora steadied the gun. "You killed my daughter." The woman tilted her head. "No, I set her free." Her eyes gleamed with something twisted, almost reverent. She didn't understand what she was part of. "None of you did." Nora's grip tightened. "You're insane!" The woman took a step forward. Maybe. But insanity is just truth that no one wants to face. The lights flickered again, and for a brief second, the woman's face seemed to shift, her skin rippling like a reflection in disturbed water. The features that had looked like Rebecca melted into something else, someone else. The eyes changed color, the jawline sharpened. Nora gasped. "Who are you?" The woman smiled faintly. "You don't remember me, do you? I was there the night Lydia died. I was the nurse who held your hand while you cried. I was the one who took Emma from the hospital nursery before you even woke up." Nora's blood ran cold. No, that's not possible." The woman's smile widened. "Oh, it's very possible. You just didn't want to see it." Before Nora could respond, the woman lunged forward, knocking the gun from her hand. It skidded across the tile. Nora struggled, pushing against her with all her strength. But the woman was stronger, her grip iron tight. "You can't stop what's already begun," she hissed. "It's bigger than you, bigger than Lydia." Nora grabbed the edge of the counter and swung a cast iron pan with every ounce of strength she had. It connected with a sickening thud, and the woman staggered backward, collapsing against the wall. Nora gasped for air, her body trembling from adrenaline. She snatched the revolver from the floor and aimed it again. "Tell me where she is," she screamed. The woman laughed weakly, blood trickling from her lip. "You'll never find her. She's already part of it now." Before Nora could pull the trigger, headlights flashed through the window, and a loud knock echoed from the front door. "Mrs. Carson? It's Detective Harris! Open up!" Nora turned toward the sound, her breath ragged. When she looked back, the woman was gone. The only thing left was the faint scent of lavender and a smear of blood leading toward the back door. Harris and 2 officers burst in moments later, weapons drawn. "Are you hurt?" he asked. Nora shook her head, pointing toward the kitchen. "She was here. She took Emma." The detective's eyes darkened. "We'll find her. I promise." He gestured to the others. "Search the perimeter." While the officers moved outside, Harris knelt beside Nora, his expression grim. "There's something you need to know. The woman you think is Rebecca, she doesn't exist in any record after the trial. No fingerprints, no photos. It's like she vanished." Nora clutched her chest. "She's real. I saw her. She's alive." Harris nodded slowly. "I believe you. But whoever she is, she's not working alone. We found something this morning. An old medical facility in the woods, about 5 miles from here. It's been abandoned for years, but lights were seen there last night. Does that mean anything to you?" Nora's eyes widened. "That's where Lydia worked before she died." Harris stood, determination hardening his face. "Then that's where we start." An hour later, the rain had slowed to a drizzle as they drove toward the woods. The dirt road was narrow, lined with gnarled trees that leaned inward like silent witnesses. Nora sat in the passenger seat, clutching Lydia's scarf. The headlights illuminated the crumbling silhouette of the building ahead, a once grand hospital now devoured by vines and shadows. As they stepped inside, the smell of decay hit her like a wave. The air was damp, heavy with mold and something metallic. Their flashlights swept across broken furniture, rusted gurneys, and walls scrawled with strange symbols. And then Nora saw it, a small toy bear sitting on a table in the corner. Button. Emma's bear. She ran forward, grabbing it, her tears falling freely. "She was here," she whispered. "She's still here." A faint noise echoed from somewhere below them. A soft hum, almost mechanical, followed by a child's voice singing the same lullaby that had haunted Nora all night. "Hush, little baby, don't say a word." Harris met her eyes. "Basement," he said. They moved carefully down the narrow stairs, the air growing colder with each step. The humming grew louder, clearer, until they reached a metal door with a small window. Inside, a single light flickered. And there, sitting on a chair in the center of the room, was Emma, her hands tied, her eyes wide but dry. She wasn't crying. She was smiling. When she saw Nora, her little voice broke through the silence. "Grandma, she said you'd come. She said it's time to go home." And behind Emma, in the shadows, a figure began to rise. Nora's heart raced as the figure stepped into the dim light, its face still partially hidden by shadows. It was the woman, the one who had taken Emma. But this time, there was something different. She moved with a grace that was almost unnatural, like she had been waiting for this moment all along. Her eyes glinted in the faint illumination, and she held out her hand toward Emma. "She belongs with me now," she said softly, voice both comforting and menacing. Emma didn't resist. She tilted her head slightly, her small hand reaching for the stranger's. Nora's stomach turned over. "No, Emma, don't!" she shouted, but the words fell hollow against the tension in the room. Harris raised his weapon, steadying his aim. "Step away from her," he commanded, his voice firm. The woman smiled, almost tenderly, and for a moment, it seemed as though the entire room held its breath. "You don't understand, Detective," she said. "She's already chosen. You can't stop what's been set in motion." Nora felt something inside her shift. Years of fear, regret, and grief compressed into a single thought. "I will not lose her too." She stepped forward, placing herself between the woman and Emma. "You are not taking her," she said, her voice trembling but resolute. The woman tilted her head, studying Nora like a predator sizing up its prey. "You're strong, I'll give you that," she whispered. "But strength alone won't save her." Harris edged closer, his gun unwavering. "We can do this the easy way or the hard way," he warned. "Step aside." The woman laughed softly, a sound that made the air itself seem heavier. "Oh, Detective, there is no easy way." "There never was." She gestured to Emma. "Do you see? She trusts me. She feels what I feel." Emma's gaze shifted from Nora to the woman, then back again. Her small lips quivered as she whispered, I want to go with her." Nora's chest constricted. Her mind screamed, but her heart knew better. "No, baby. You're not going anywhere with her?" "I'm here. I'm not leaving you." The woman's expression softened for a heartbeat. Then, with a sudden, almost inhuman swiftness, she lunged toward Emma. Nora barely had time to react. She grabbed her granddaughter, pulling her close as the woman's hands grazed her shoulder. A sharp pain shot through Nora's arm, but she refused to let go. Harris fired a shot, the sound deafening in the enclosed space. The woman stumbled backward but did not falter entirely. She looked at them with eyes full of something both desperate and sorrowful. "You don't understand the choice she made," she hissed. "You never will." Nora held Emma tightly, her own tears mingling with the girls as she whispered, "I understand more than you think. And I will fight for you. Every breath, every heartbeat, if I have to." The woman's form flickered, almost like a shadow caught between two worlds. She shook her head, muttering words that Nora couldn't comprehend. Then, suddenly, she vanished. For a moment, the room was silent, except for the sound of rain tapping against the broken windows. Emma clung to Nora, burying her face in her grandmother's chest. "Grandma," she whispered, her voice trembling, I don't understand, but I'm glad you're here." Harris lowered his gun slowly. "She's gone, for now," he said, voice uncertain. "We don't know how or why, but she's gone." Nora nodded, still holding Emma tightly. Her mind raced, trying to process what had just happened. There were too many questions. Too many unknowns. But for the first time in weeks, she felt a glimmer of relief. Emma was alive. She was safe. As they left the building, the storm had begun to ease, the rain turning to a steady drizzle. The woods around them seemed quieter, almost peaceful, as if the world itself had been holding its breath and was now exhaling. Back in the car, Emma leaned against Nora, her small hand gripping hers tightly. "Grandma, will she come back?" she asked, her voice barely audible. Nora looked down at her granddaughter, her eyes filled with determination and love. "Maybe," she said softly, "but we're together now, and that's what matters. We'll face whatever comes, together." Harris drove in silence for a while, the weight of the night pressing down on all of them. "We'll need to get her into protective custody," he said finally, breaking the silence. "And figure out exactly what she's planning. Whatever that woman is, she's not acting alone." Nora nodded. Her mind was spinning with questions, memories, and fears, but she focused on Emma's small, trusting face. She promised herself, silently, that she would never let anything or anyone come between them again. That night, when they arrived at the safe house, Emma finally fell asleep in Nora's arms, exhaustion overtaking her. Nora sat in the chair beside the bed, holding her granddaughter close, and whispered a prayer for protection, guidance, and strength. Outside, the wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it a faint sound, almost like laughter, soft and distant, fading into the darkness. Nora's eyes snapped open. She gripped Emma tighter. "We're not done," she whispered. Harris placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "No, we're not. But we have a head start now." Nora nodded, her resolve hardening. Whatever it took, however long it took, she would uncover the truth. She would confront the shadows, the lies, the secrets that had haunted their family for so long. And she would protect Emma, no matter the cost. In the stillness of the night, as the rain continued to fall outside, Nora realized something profound. Fear had guided her for too long. But love would be her weapon now, and the storm, no matter how violent or dark, could never break that bond. But somewhere, in the shadows beyond the safe house walls, the woman watched, unseen. And she was smiling. "Soon," she whispered to herself. "Soon it will all make sense." Nora did not know it yet, but the battle was only beginning. The Galway secrets buried in the past were stirring, and the choices made tonight would shape the future in ways she could not yet imagine. Emma stirred in her sleep, murmuring her grandmother's name. Nora kissed her forehead, vowing silently that she would never let the darkness claim her again. The night stretched on, heavy with unspoken tension, the flickering shadows in the corners of the room whispering of truths yet to be revealed. And in that quiet, fragile moment, hope and fear intertwined, binding them all together for what was to come. The first rays of dawn began to pierce through the window, and Nora felt the weight of the night begin to lift. But even as the light entered the room, she could not shake the feeling that the shadows were waiting, watching, patient, relentless. Emma slept on, safe for now, but the echoes of the past and the threats of the future lingered like a storm that had not yet passed. And Nora knew, deep down, that the journey ahead would demand more courage, more sacrifice, and more love than she had ever imagined. She held her granddaughter close and whispered, "Whatever comes, we face it together. Always together." Outside, the wind carried a faint, almost imperceptible hum, the same lullaby that had haunted their lives, and for a fleeting moment, the world seemed poised on the edge of revelation, waiting for the next move in a game that no one could yet predict. The shadows were still there, waiting, watching. And Nora knew, with a certainty that made her heart ache and soar all at once, that the darkness had not yet claimed its last victim. But neither had hope, and hope, she realized, might just be their most powerful weapon of all. The first morning light crept through the blinds, painting the room in soft shades of gold and gray. Nora sat by the window, Emma still asleep beside her, the child's chest rising and falling in steady rhythm. The storm from the previous night had left puddles along the roads and the scent of wet earth hanging in the air. But the calm of the morning did little to quiet the turmoil in Nora's mind. She knew the woman was still out there. The one who had taken Emma, who had whispered promises no child should ever hear, had vanished, but not without leaving her mark. The fear, the confusion, and the haunting sense that the past was far from over lingered in the room like a stubborn shadow. Nora glanced down at Emma's small, peaceful face. I won't let anyone hurt you, she whispered, her fingers brushing a strand of hair from her granddaughter's forehead. I promise. The sound of a knock at the door made her startle. Harris entered, his expression grim but controlled. Morning, he said. We need to talk about what's next. Nora nodded, motioning for him to sit. I don't know how she disappeared, she admitted. It was like she just vanished. One moment she was there, and the next, nothing. Harris leaned back, rubbing his temple. That's what worries me. Whatever she is, she's not human, or at least not entirely. And she knows how to manipulate fear, trust, everything that makes people vulnerable. Nora felt a chill run down her spine. She had felt that manipulation firsthand, seen it twist Emma's innocence into doubt and hesitation. Then we have to find her before she does something worse, she said, her voice hardening with resolve. Before anyone else gets caught in her game, Harris nodded. I've started looking into her past. Records are scarce, but there are rumors. Stories of children disappearing, strange sightings, and whispers of powers that defy explanation. I think she's been planning this for a long time, Nora clenched her fists. And Emma is at the center of it. Why her? Why our family? Harris hesitated, then spoke softly. Some things you don't choose, but some things you can fight. And you will. We just need a plan. Nora's mind raced, piecing together fragments of memories and encounters from the past. The woman had known their every move, anticipated their reactions, and used their love as a weapon. It was terrifying, but it also revealed something crucial. She feared them. She feared the bond between Nora and Emma. We need to strengthen that bond, Nora said finally, her voice resolute. We need to show her that love cannot be manipulated or broken, that nothing she does will come between us. Harris nodded, impressed by her clarity. Agreed, but we can't underestimate her. She's intelligent, resourceful, dangerous. Nora took a deep breath. Then we fight smarter. We anticipate. We don't react blindly. And we prepare Emma, carefully, gently, so she's strong enough to face what's coming. The day passed slowly, the hours stretched thin as Nora and Harris worked quietly, planning, strategizing, and searching for any clue that could lead them to the woman. Every sound, every shadow outside the safe house felt loaded with potential danger. Emma stayed close, sensing the tension, her small hand gripping Nora's as if her life depended on it. By evening, the weight of the day pressed heavily upon Nora. She sat at the kitchen table, reviewing notes and maps, tracing routes the woman might take. Harris joined her, placing a folder down. I found something, he said. A location, abandoned, secluded. Matches some patterns from her past movements. Could be where she's hiding, or where she's planning her next move. Nora's eyes narrowed. We go there tomorrow? Harris shook his head. Not yet. We need to be careful. She's not going to make it easy. And if she suspects we're onto her, she could disappear again. Or worse. Nora leaned back, running her fingers through her hair, thinking. Then we prepare. We make a plan so airtight she can't escape. We gather information, tools, people, everything we need, Harris nodded. And we make sure Emma is safe no matter what. We keep her close, but we also help her understand. She's stronger than she thinks, and the more she knows, the less power she has over her. That night, Nora stayed by Emma's bedside, watching her sleep, listening to her soft breathing. Memories of past failures, losses, and fears crept into her mind, but she pushed them away. This time she would not falter. This time she would not let fear dictate her actions. In the quiet darkness, Nora whispered a promise. No matter what comes, we face it together. I will not let her take you. I will fight for you with everything I have. Emma stirred slightly, murmuring in her sleep, I love you, Grandma. Nora's eyes filled with tears. She brushed a hand across Emma's cheek, holding back the sobs that threatened to escape. I love you too, baby. More than anything in this world. The next morning brought an eerie calm. The storm had passed entirely, leaving the sky a pale blue, the air crisp and clean. Nora and Harris loaded the car with supplies, maps, and tools, preparing for the search that would take them into unknown danger. Emma clung to Nora, her small hands trembling. Grandma, I don't want to go, she whispered, fear evident in her eyes. Nora knelt, looking her granddaughter in the eyes. I know, baby. But we have to be brave, together, and I promise, I will never let anything happen to you. Emma nodded reluctantly, trusting her grandmother implicitly. It was a trust that would become their greatest strength and the woman's greatest weakness. As they drove, the streets were quiet, almost unnaturally so. The city seemed to hold its breath, as though aware of the confrontation that was to come. Nora's mind replayed every encounter, every clue, and every whispered word from the woman. Each fragment formed a picture, incomplete but revealing. The woman's obsession, her knowledge, her fear of the bond between grandmother and granddaughter. They reached the outskirts of town by midday, a place where abandoned warehouses and overgrown lots dotted the landscape. Harris parked in the shadows, surveying the area. This is it, he said. But we move carefully. She's probably watching, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Nora nodded, her heart pounding. We move together and we do not let fear guide us. We take every precaution, but we face this head-on. For Emma, they approached the largest building, its windows broken, doors hanging ajar. The air was heavy, tinged with decay and neglect. Nora felt a chill creep along her spine, but she pushed it down, focusing on the task at hand. Inside, the warehouse was dark, the light filtering through cracks in the walls. Shadows moved unnaturally, as if alive, whispering secrets in voices only she could almost hear. Nora's grip on Emma's hand tightened. She could feel the child's heartbeat against her own, steady but wary. Suddenly, a faint sound, a soft hum, almost like a lullaby, echoed through the building. Nora froze. That's her, she whispered. She's here. Harris signaled for them to stay close, and they moved deeper into the shadows. Every step was deliberate, every sound amplified in the vast emptiness. The hum grew louder, more insistent, weaving through the air like a thread of tension pulling them forward. Then, in the center of the warehouse, they saw her. The woman stood, surrounded by objects and relics, some old, some unfamiliar, arranged in patterns that seemed both chaotic and intentional. She turned, eyes glowing with an eerie light. You came, she said softly, almost pleased. I wondered when you would arrive. Nora stepped forward, holding Emma protectively. We're here to end this, she said firmly. No more running, no more hiding. You will not hurt her. The woman smiled, her expression both tender and terrifying. And this? Oh, detective, it has only just begun. Nora's heart pounded, her resolve steel hard. Whatever this confrontation brought, she knew one thing with absolute certainty. She would not let the shadows claim her granddaughter. And in that moment, surrounded by the remnants of the past and the threat of the unknown, the stage was set for a confrontation that would test every ounce of courage, love, and strength they possessed. The echoes of the past reverberated through the empty warehouse, promising that the battle ahead would be one of heart. And so Nora took a deep breath, holding Emma close. Whatever comes, she whispered, we face it together, and we do not back down. The woman tilted her head, her smile widening, and the air grew thick with anticipation. The fight was coming, and nothing would ever be the same again. The warehouse seemed to breathe with its own life, shadows stretching along the walls as Nora and Harris stepped cautiously forward. Emma clung tightly to Nora's side, her small hands trembling, but her eyes shone with a strange mix of fear and determination. The woman in the center of the room, her presence commanding yet unnervingly calm, tilted her head and let a slow, chilling smile spread across her face. You're brave, she said softly, her voice weaving through the silence like a dark melody, or perhaps foolish. Either way, you're here, and that means the game begins. Nora squared her shoulders, her grip on Emma firm. This isn't a game. You've hurt enough people already. It ends tonight. The woman laughed, a sound that was both musical and menacing, echoing against the cold concrete walls. You think it's that simple? You think love and courage alone will stop me? Harris stepped beside Nora, his eyes scanning the room for anything that might give them an advantage. We're not underestimating you, he said steadily. But you also underestimate what people are willing to fight for. And we're willing to fight for her, Emma's small voice piped up, trembling but firm. Leave her alone. The woman's gaze shifted to Emma, studying her as if she were a puzzle. Ah, the child speaks, she said, her tone laced with amusement. So tiny, yet so full of fire. Do you know why I'm here? Emma shook her head, clutching Nora's hand even tighter. To test the strength of bonds, the woman replied, circling them slowly. To see if love can truly withstand fear, manipulation, and despair. You see, detective, you think your love shields you, but every bond has cracks. Every heart has vulnerabilities, and I am very good at finding them. Nora took a deep breath, keeping her voice steady. You're wrong. Love isn't fragile. It's stronger than fear, stronger than lies, and it will never break. The woman's smile widened, revealing a glimpse of something inhuman behind it. We shall see, she said. We shall see. Suddenly, the room seemed to shift. Shadows stretched unnaturally, swirling around them, forming shapes that made the hairs on the back of Nora's neck stand on end. Objects from the warehouse rattled and trembled as if caught in an unseen storm. Emma clung to her grandmother, whispering, I'm scared. I know. Baby? Nora replied softly, brushing her hair from Emma's face. But we are together. That's what matters. The woman's laughter filled the air again. Together, she repeated almost mockingly. Yes, that is exactly what makes you weak. And yet, powerful. A paradox, isn't it? Harris shifted closer, keeping a careful eye on the woman. Enough talking, he said firmly. Whatever tricks you're planning, we're ready for them. The woman's eyes glimmered, and in an instant, the shadows surged forward. Shapes formed into figures, echoing their worst fears, and the warehouse became a labyrinth of illusions and threats. Nora's mind raced as she realized the woman's power wasn't just physical, it was psychological. She could manipulate perception, conjure fear, and twist reality around them. Nora tightened her grip on Emma. Focus on me, Emma. Nothing else matters. Look at me, listen to me. You are safe. Emma's eyes locked onto her grandmother's, and for a brief moment the shadows seemed to hesitate. The woman's expression darkened. Clever. Using love as a shield? Very well. Let us test it. Suddenly, the shadows lunged, taking forms that resembled past losses, regrets, and fears. Images of loved ones lost, failures unspoken, and mistakes long buried surrounded them. Nora felt a weight in her chest, memories threatening to overwhelm her. But she drew in a deep, steadying breath and focused on Emma, on the life she had promised to protect. You are stronger than any illusion, she said aloud, her voice echoing through the chaos. And I am with you, always, Emma repeated, almost as if chanting, I am stronger, and you are with me. The shadows faltered, wavering under the force of their combined resolve. The woman's smile faltered for the first time. Impressive, she said through gritted teeth. But we're not finished yet. With a swift motion, she raised her hands, and the room shifted again. This time, the shadows attacked physically, solidifying into grotesque forms that lunged at them. Harris moved quickly, using a combination of brute force and strategy to fend them off. Nora shielded Emma, guiding her through the chaos. Moving as one unit through the warehouse that had become a nightmarish battlefield, Emma's courage surprised even Nora. Despite her fear, the child faced the illusions, repeating her grandmother's words, refusing to be broken. Each time a shadow loomed, Emma's defiance weakened it, her voice carrying a power Nora had never imagined. The woman's frustration grew. No, this cannot be, she cried, her control over the shadows slipping. How can they resist so completely? Nora stepped forward, her heart pounding, her voice firm. Because love is stronger than fear, stronger than any darkness you can summon. You cannot break what is true, Emma echoed, louder this time. You cannot break us. The shadows trembled and dissipated, dissolving into nothingness. The room fell silent, the air heavy but calm. The woman stood there, her expression a mixture of disbelief and fury. You shouldn't have survived this, she whispered, her voice trembling. You underestimated us, Nora said, her gaze unwavering. You thought fear would control us, manipulate us, and make us crumble. But love doesn't crumble. It grows, it fights back, and it will always find a way to protect what matters. Emma stepped forward, small but unwavering. We're not afraid of you, and we never will be. The woman's eyes flashed, a storm of anger and something else, regret perhaps or pain she could not name. You are strong. Too strong, she said. Harris moved beside them, his presence steady. Your games end here. Whatever power you think you have, it's nothing compared to what love can do. The woman's figure wavered, her form flickering as if she were fading. This isn't over, she whispered, her voice almost lost in the vast emptiness. It's never over. And with that, she vanished, leaving behind only a faint echo of her laughter and the lingering tension of what had just occurred. Nora lowered Emma into her arms, holding her close, feeling the warmth and life of the child against her. Tears streamed down her face, a mixture of relief, fear, and overwhelming love. It's over, she whispered softly, though her heart knew the scars would remain. We're safe now. Emma hugged her back tightly, murmuring, I knew we could do it together. Harris let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. That was intense, he admitted. More than anything I've ever faced. Nora nodded, her mind still reeling from the confrontation. She was powerful, she said. But she couldn't touch what really matters. And that's something she will never understand. The three of them stood in the quiet warehouse, surrounded by remnants of fear and shadows, but unbroken. For the first time in weeks, Nora felt a sense of peace, fragile but real, settling over her. This will be a story to remember, Harris said softly, almost in awe. Not of fear, but of courage. Not of loss, but of love. Nora held Emma close, feeling the bond between them strengthen even further. And it's a story we will carry with us, she said. A reminder that even in the darkest places, love will always be the light. Outside, the sun dipped low, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose, a quiet testament to survival, resilience, and the unbreakable strength of the human heart. And as they walked away from the warehouse, together, safe and victorious, Nora knew that the echoes of the past would always linger, but they would never have the power to define their future. The battle had been fought. The confrontation had ended, and in the quiet aftermath, one truth shone brighter than ever. Love, above all else, conquers. The morning sun spilled into the quiet streets as Nora, Emma, and Harris emerged from the shadows of the warehouse. The air felt different, lighter somehow, as if the night's terror had lifted, leaving space for clarity, for understanding, for growth. Emma held Nora's hand tightly, her steps careful but determined, and for the first time, Nora allowed herself to breathe fully, unburdened by fear. They walked in silence at first, each lost in thought, replaying the confrontation over and over, examining every moment of courage and every heartbeat of fear. The warehouse had been more than a battleground. It had been a crucible, testing the strength of their love, their courage, and their resolve. Nora realized that the danger they had faced was not just physical, it was emotional, mental, and spiritual. And surviving it had taught them something deeper than any victory could convey. Do you know what I realized? Nora said softly, breaking the silence as they approached a small park bathed in golden light. Emma looked up at her, curious. Harris glanced over, sensing the importance of her words. That love isn't just about holding on, Nora continued. It's about standing firm even when fear tries to take over. It's about trusting each other, even when everything around us seems uncertain. And most of all, it's about believing in what's right, even when it feels impossible. Emma nodded slowly, her young face thoughtful. Even when it's scary? She asked. Especially when it's scary, Nora replied, squeezing her hand. That's when love matters most. That's when courage shines the brightest. Because it's easy to be brave when everything is safe. But real strength is showing up for someone you love when the world feels like it's collapsing. Harris exhaled, a sound of release. I never realized how much fear can control a person until tonight, he said. But I also never realized how much love can fight back. How powerful it can be. You've shown me that, Nora. Emma, you too, Emma beamed, proud to hear her courage acknowledged. I wasn't sure I could do it, she admitted. But I had you, and I knew we'd get through it together. That's the truth, Nora said, smiling. We get through life together. That's the lesson we need to carry forward. As they walked through the park, sunlight warming their faces, the shadows of the past seemed to recede, leaving behind lessons that would not fade. Nora thought about the woman who had terrorized them, and she realized something crucial. Fear only has power if you allow it to define you. By standing firm in love, they had refused to let the darkness control their hearts. That choice, that simple yet profound decision, had made all the difference. People often think courage is about fighting, Nora said aloud, more to herself than anyone else. But real courage is about holding on to what matters most, even when you're afraid. It's about protecting others, standing for truth, and believing that goodness can overcome any evil. Emma looked up at her grandmother, her eyes wide. So, we were brave because we loved each other? Yes, Nora replied. And because we refused to give up on each other. That's the kind of bravery that lasts. That's the kind of strength the world needs, Harris nodded, adding. And it's something anyone can have. You don't need powers or weapons. You just need heart, determination, and the courage to face fear head-on. That's a lesson worth sharing. As they sat on a bench overlooking a small fountain, Nora watched the water sparkle in the morning light, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. The ordeal had tested them in ways they could never have imagined, but it had also revealed their true strength. They had learned that love, courage, and trust are not just abstract ideals. They are actionable forces that shape the outcomes of life itself. Nora turned to the camera, if one were here, speaking as if she were sharing this with the world. The lesson I want everyone to take from our story is this. Fear is temporary, but love endures. Doubt can cloud your mind, but courage can clear it. And no matter how dark the night, even the smallest light, like a child's faith, a friend's loyalty, or a family's bond, can shine brightly enough to guide you home, Emma chimed in, her voice small but clear. And you can be brave too. Just remember who you're standing with, and you won't be alone. Harris smiled at the two of them, feeling an emotion he hadn't expected, hope. Sometimes, he said, the world shows you its worst to remind you how strong you can be. It's easy to forget the power we carry inside us. But tonight, we remembered. And we survived. Not just physically, but in every way that matters. Nora felt a surge of determination. And we have to share that. We have to remind others that they too can face their fears. That they can stand for what matters, even when the odds seem impossible. Because courage grows when it's shared, just like love. Emma leaned against her grandmother, her small voice sincere. I want everyone to know. Even if they're scared, they can still be brave? Nora nodded, eyes glistening with tears. Exactly, baby. That's why we tell our story. To inspire, to remind, to give hope. Fear will come to everyone at some point. But love, courage, and trust, they are stronger than fear. And they are always worth fighting for. Harris looked toward the horizon, where the sun climbed higher, casting golden rays across the city. So the takeaway, he said slowly, is simple. Protect what matters. Stand for what's right. And never underestimate the power of love. That's the real strength. Nora smiled, turning to face both Harris and Emma. And remember, even if you feel small, even if you feel alone, your heart is powerful. Your courage matters. Your love matters. And it can change everything. Emma squeezed her grandmother's hand tightly. I feel like we can do anything, she whispered. You can, Nora replied, her voice steady. Because you already have. Tonight we proved it. And every day after that, you will continue to prove it, not by fighting monsters, but by standing for what's right, loving fiercely, and never giving up. Harris chuckled softly. And that's a story worth telling the world. Nora nodded, looking toward the unseen audience. If you're watching this, remember, fear will test you. Life will challenge you. Darkness will try to break you. But love will hold you. Courage will guide you. And hope will never let you go. That is the message we want to leave for everyone. Because it works. It saves. It transforms. Emma smiled, her eyes sparkling with determination. And you can share it too. Tell people. They can be brave. Nora reached out, holding both Harris and Emma close. Exactly. Stand together. Protect one another. Believe in the good. Fight for love. That's how we change the world. As they rose from the bench and walked toward a brighter, open street, Nora turned back one last time, a gentle but firm invitation in her eyes. And if this story moved you, inspired you, or gave you hope, subscribe, follow, and share it. Because the world needs more courage, more love, and more stories that remind us what truly matters. Together we can make a difference. The sunlight embraced them fully now, chasing away every lingering shadow, and the city seemed alive with possibility. They had faced the darkness and emerged not just victorious, but transformed, carrying a truth so simple yet so profound. Love, courage, and hope are not just ideas. They are the keys to surviving, thriving, and inspiring everyone around you. And in that light, as they walked forward, the world felt just a little brighter, a little kinder, and full of infinite potential for those willing to stand up. Fight fear with love and never, ever give up.